ladies and gentlemen. On February 25th, 2026, a date etched in the annals of audacious betrayal, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the fiery icon we have hailed as the unyielding vanguard against global predation, affixed his signature to a colossal $147 million deal with the United States. And here is the bitter pill, the caustic truth that must be swallowed whole. It bears not the noble banner of Burkina First, but the chilling, unapologetic moniker of the America First Global Health Strategy. Does this audacious act signal the quiet auctioning of our hard-won sovereignty to the highest bidder in Washington, a stealthy re-entry of the US dollar after its ignominious expulsion from our front gates? For every brother and sister in the diaspora whose hopes, tears, and relentless prayers have watered the fertile soil of a free Africa, this news lands like a shroud, casting a cold shadow over the burgeoning dawn. We know, instinctively, the monumental weight of Burkina Faso and the electrifying leadership of Ibrahim Traoré in sculpting the future of our continent, in reclaiming the dignity of our people. This is no mere health pact. It is a high-stakes gambit, a lethal chess match where a small, defiant nation faces a global colossus that has traded its camouflage for a lab coat, deploying aid as its ultimate weapon. Is this a genuine gesture of succor, a hand extended to save lives, or a modern-day Trojan horse, meticulously engineered to siphon the biological essence of our children, to harvest our most intimate data, while our gaze is fixed on the illusion of salvation? Today we rip back the veil, exposing the insidious clauses that more discerning nations, with their eyes wide open, refuse to touch. If the very notion that Africa belongs to Africans, untainted by the grasping tendrils of foreign interests, ignites a fire within your soul, then let your conviction echo. Hit that like button now. Subscribe to swell the ranks of our global family. And in the sacred digital hearth, let the words Africa rise thunder forth, a testament to the unyielding beat of our collective heart for freedom, a defiant stand for our inherent dignity. Lean in, my family, and listen with every fiber of your being. We are about to peel back the layers of a story shrouded in the sterile whispers of diplomacy, a narrative whose potential to unravel the very fabric of the West African revolution we have so fiercely championed is terrifyingly real. On that fateful February 25th, 2026, a date destined to be revisited by history's harsh gaze, the government of Burkina Faso embarked on a path few foresaw. They sat, not as equals but as supplicants, at a table with Washington's emissaries, penning a 5-year accord. Superficially, it bears the innocuous semblance of international cooperation, a memorandum of understanding focused on public health. Yet, when the true title of this document falls upon your consciousness, a visceral shudder, akin to my own, will seize you. The America First Global Health Strategy. Let that chilling reality permeate your spirit for a long, agonizing moment. Not a partnership for Africa, not a collaborative effort for the Sahel, but America First. This is the same Burkina Faso forged in the crucible of Captain Ibrahim Traoré's resolve. This is the man who stared down the entrenched global order, declaring the ignoble era of Africa as a footstool for foreign powers to be irrevocably over. This is the leader who, with a dismissive wave, bade the French military to gather their belongings and depart. The visionary who forged new alliances with Russia, China, and Iran, meticulously crafting a multipolar world where Africa would finally claim its rightful sovereign seat. And yet, here we stand, confronted by an official decree where the foundational objective, the very raison d'être, is emblazoned in its title, America First. I relay this not to sow panic, but as a sentinel of truth, I am bound to lay bare the unvarnished reality. even when that truth presses down with the unbearable weight of a leaden pocket. I feel the acute sting of disappointment, and I know without a shadow of a doubt that many of you are experiencing the same bitter taste of betrayal in your very chests. We dared to believe the Alliance of Sahel States was an unbreachable fortress against the insidious currents of Western influence. But it seems a fissure has appeared in its walls, and that crack is being meticulously filled with American dollars. Let us dissect the anatomy of this decision, for without understanding the grim realities on the ground, we risk falling into the trap of simplistic condemnation. Consider Amadou, a man of 65, his life etched onto the dusty peripheries of Ouagadougou. His existence, a testament to unrelenting labor, is now burdened by a body weary and a chronic affliction that demands a weekly pilgrimage for elusive medicine. For Amadou, and for countless millions like him, the lofty rhetoric of national sovereignty dissolves into an abstraction when confronted by the stark reality of a barren medicine cabinet. Burkina Faso's health infrastructure, a skeletal frame, bears the scars of decades of colonial neglect, further exacerbated by years of a relentless battle against extremist terror. Hospitals lie bereft of fundamental supplies. Clinics stand understaffed, their resources stretched to breaking point. Into this desperate tableau, the United States made its grand entrance, brandishing $147 million on a gleaming silver platter. Promises of aid for HIV, pledges to eradicate malaria, and assurances to preempt future pandemics were laid out. For a government battling existential threats on multiple fronts while striving to preserve the lives of its populace, $147 million transcends mere currency. It represents a desperate, life-saving tether. But we, the awakened, know this fundamental truth. In this global labyrinth, nothing is truly free, especially when bestowed by a superpower in the midst of a radical reorientation of its foreign policy. This deal, ostensibly a lifeline, arrives with strings attached, drawn so taut they threaten to sever the very circulation of our national autonomy. Alongside that $147 million, Burkina Faso was coerced into committing $17 million of its own meager domestic budget, not on its own terms, but dictated precisely by the Americans. This is where the sinister resonance of America First begins to manifest its true form. The U.S., in essence, declares, "We will extend a helping hand, but only if you adhere to our blueprint, adopt our systems, and allow our experts to embed themselves within your administrative arteries." They are not merely advising, they are commanding a sovereign nation on the allocation of its own precious resources. If you possess the incandescent pride of an African, this imposition should ignite a righteous fury within your very marrow. It is a chilling echo of the old master re-entering through the hospital door after being forcefully ejected from the military barracks. Reflect upon the timing, for it is profoundly telling. Mere days before this accord was inked, Burkina Faso's defense minister stood in Tehran, his hand clasping that of his Iranian counterpart, discussing the potent solidarity of the global South. The world watched, convinced Traore was decisively pivoting away from the suffocating Western orbit. Then, this health deal detonates like a tactical bombshell. It reveals a game of staggering cunning orchestrated by the United States. They understood the futility of victory through drones and soldiers in the Sahel. The people had spoken their emphatic no. Their leaders had echoed the defiance. So what was their ingenious pivot? A costume change. They shared the battle-hardened camouflage for the sterile, deceptive white lab coat. They are leveraging the most fundamental human vulnerability, the desperate need for health, as a conduit to maintain a tenacious foothold in a region that, with collective will, had sought to cast them out. It is a strategic masterstroke, one that cynically exploits the lives of the most vulnerable as pawns in a geopolitical game of thrones. For our kin in the diaspora, those residing in the sprawling metropolises of Atlanta, London, or Paris, who gaze upon the motherland with a swelling heart of pride when Traoré's voice cuts through the global din, this news serves as an agonizing clarion call. It is a stark, brutal reminder that the odyssey towards total independence is no frantic dash. It is a grueling, unforgiving marathon. The adversaries of our progress are patient, calculating. They comprehend that if aerial dominion over Burkina Faso is unattainable, they will relentlessly pursue control over the data housed within its hospitals. They know that if the subterranean wealth of minerals eludes their grasp today, they will construct the intricate digital architecture to track the very people who reside atop those mineral riches tomorrow. This is precisely why our vigilance must remain unblinking. We cannot simply applaud resonant speeches. We must scrutinize the infinitesimal fine print of every single contract, for that is where the soul of a nation can be irrevocably mortgaged. Is this the grim prologue to a new epoch where Africa is condemned to choose between the physical well-being of its people and the sanctity of its freedom? 19 African nations, a disquieting roster including behemoths like Nigeria and Ethiopia, have already succumbed to the allure of this America First agenda. But the inclusion of Burkina Faso, the beating, defiant heart of the new resistance, is the wound that cuts deepest. It feels like a meticulously calibrated assault designed to fracture the very spirit of the Alliance of Sahel States. If they can compel the strongest among us to sign, they believe the rest will follow, an obedient flock. Yet they conveniently forget a primal truth. The people of Africa are undergoing a profound awakening. The glittering facade of foreign aid no longer blinds us. We perceive the America First label for the insidious instrument it truly is. I want to hear from you, my family. Does this deal erode your faith in the revolutionary trajectory of the Sahel? Or do you perceive a deeper, more intricate chess game orchestrated by Traore, a gambit yet unseen by our limited vantage point? Can a nation genuinely claim sovereignty when the very health of its populace is financed by a foreign power that brazenly declares its own interests as paramount? Let us engage in an unvarnished, authentic dialogue in the comments below. Inscribe New Africa if your conviction holds that we can forge a path to heal our people without surrendering our collective soul. This is a moment demanding our unified stand, a moment to demand nothing less than a continent-wide commitment to Africa first, not as a mere rhetorical flourish, but as an undeniable lived reality. Now let us wrench our gaze from the parched thoroughfares of Ouagadougou and direct it towards the verdant highlands of Harare. For what transpired in Zimbabwe this week is a masterclass in unyielding courage, a lesson every African, every progeny of this sacred soil must absorb. While we grapple with the visceral shock emanating from Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, with an indomitable spirit, stood erect and uttered an emphatic no to the most formidable nation on earth. And their defiance was not aimed at a paltry sum. They scorned a staggering $367 million. Let that colossal figure resonate within your consciousness for a profound moment. $367 million. This sum represented the single largest proposed health investment in Zimbabwe's entire history. It was a covenant promising to secure the lives of over 1.2 million Zimbabweans, a vast segment of their population currently living with HIV and utterly reliant on antiretroviral treatment. Imagine, if you will, an elder in a remote village nestled beyond Bulawayo's bustling embrace. Let us name her Gogo Thandi. She is 70 years young, and for 15 arduous years, her very existence has hinged on those diminutive white pills housed in a bottle adorned with an alien label. For Gogo Thandi, that $367 million was not merely currency. It was the tangible demarcation between witnessing the blossoming of her grandchildren or leaving them to navigate a world without her guiding hand. When a government faced with such a profound offer chooses to decline, they are not merely issuing a political pronouncement. They are assuming an immense, life-altering risk with the very lives of their own people. So the piercing question emerges: why did President Mnangagwa and his cabinet opt to retreat from the negotiating table? Why did they deliberately choose a perilous path of uncertainty over the perceived security offered by American gold? The answer, sharp and unforgiving, lies buried within the treacherous fine print of that selfsame America First global health strategy. When the Zimbabwean government, exercising what they meticulously described as a rigorous interministerial review, scrutinized the document, they unearthed a venomous trap, cunningly concealed within the very medicine bottles. The Americans were not merely dispensing funds, they were deploying a sophisticated vacuum cleaner designed to suction Zimbabwe's most invaluable biological assets. The agreement stipulated nothing less than comprehensive, unfettered access to its profoundly sensitive health data. We speak here of pathogen samples, of virulent virus strains, of the very genetic blueprint of the Zimbabwean people. In this nascent 21st century, biological data has supplanted gold as the ultimate currency. It is the primordial raw material for the next generation of life-saving vaccines, the genesis of multi-billion-dollar pharmaceuticals, the wellspring of tomorrow's biotechnological breakthroughs. And here lies the most egregious, the most morally reprehensible facet of this proposed compact. While the United States shamelessly demanded total access to Zimbabwe's biological secrets, it offered absolutely zero guarantee, not a single assurance, that Zimbabwe would ever partake in the benefits derived from any discoveries hatched from that data. Should an American pharmaceutical titan exploit a Zimbabwean virus sample to engineer a vaccine that garners billions in profit, Zimbabwe would remain obligated to pay the full, exorbitant price to procure that very vaccine. There was no reciprocal exchange, no equitable sharing, no guarantee of access to the life-saving treatments that might emerge, no provision for technology transfer, no promise of empowering Zimbabwean scientists. Zimbabwe was being shamelessly coerced into surrendering its sovereignty for a fleeting supply of pills, while the United States would abscond with the permanent intellectual property, the genetic future of Africa's biological patrimony. The Zimbabwean government spokesperson articulated the obscenity with an eloquence I can only aspire to. He declared the arrangement asymmetrical. This is a euphemism, a polite term for a blatant one-way street of exploitation. He incisively highlighted the United States' recent withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Why does this maneuver matter with such profound significance? Because the WHO stands as the paramount international arbiter, designed precisely to ensure that when a virus is shared for the common good, its resultant benefits are shared equitably by all. By abandoning the WHO and strategically forcing these bilateral clandestine one-on-one deals, the United States is deliberately isolating African nations. Their objective is to corner you, one by one, in a privatized room where they wield absolute leverage, and you, the vulnerable, possess none. They seek to circumvent established global protocols, enabling them to extract precisely what they desire without any reciprocal obligation to the community of nations. Zimbabwe's defiant stance was a line drawn in the sand, an uncompromising declaration. They insisted that any genuine partnership must be predicated upon mutual respect and transparent dealings. They asserted unequivocally that no quantum of foreign assistance, irrespective of the millions of dollars dangled before them, should ever be permitted to compromise the sacrosanct independence of a nation. This is a country that has endured years of crippling sanctions, its economy squeezed to the precipice of hemorrhage. And yet, imbued with an unbowed dignity, they declared that their people were not for sale. They affirmed that true development aid must empower a nation to stand resolutely on its own feet, not to forge a permanent dependency that transmutes the country into a mere laboratory for foreign interests. But brace yourselves for Washington's chilling retort. This is the moment that lays bare the unvarnished reptilian face of the America First agenda. When Zimbabwe, with unwavering resolve, walked away, the U.S. Embassy in Harare did not proffer an olive branch, did not offer to renegotiate the terms. They did not inquire how to recalibrate the partnership towards a more equitable footing. Instead, they issued a cold, clinical, and utterly dismissive statement. They announced their intention to commence the difficult task of winding down their health assistance. And then they appended two words, a two-word dagger designed to plunge a chill down your very spine. We wish them well. Pause. Reflect on the profound arrogance encapsulated in those words. We wish them well. This is the chilling lexicon employed when an employer summarily terminates an employee. This is the brutal idiom of an ultimatum. It is, in essence, a declaration. If you deviate one iota from our directives, you are entirely on your own. May fortune favor your survival without us. This is not the language of a friend, nor of an ally, nor of a true partner. It is the cold, calculated response of a superpower denied its anticipated prize. They are, in their chilling indifference, conveying to the 1.2 million Zimbabweans dependent on HIV treatment that their very lives are deemed worthy of support only if their government surrenders the biological sovereignty of its nation. This, my people, is the clandestine warfare of the 21st century. It is not waged with the brute force of tanks rumbling through city streets. It is fought with the silent, insidious currency of data points within the sterile confines of a laboratory. It is a war for dominion over the foundational building blocks of life itself. For our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, you must grasp this profound truth. When the U.S. articulates global health security, their reference is unequivocally to their security, not ours. Their imperative is to meticulously monitor outbreaks in Africa, not out of altruism, but to erect bulwarks around their own borders. They covet our data so their colossal pharmaceutical corporations can maintain a perpetual advantage over their rivals in China and Europe. Africa, in their calculating gaze, is reduced to a resource to be plundered. But this time, the resource is not merely gold or diamonds, it is our very DNA. Zimbabwe's resounding no stands as an incandescent beacon of hope for the entire continent. It is a defiant testament that even in the throes of poverty, even amidst the agonizing throes of struggle, you possess the inherent power to reject a predatory deal. It demonstrates unequivocally that sovereignty is not a mere rhetorical flourish for politicians to wield in grand speeches. It is a sacred principle, defended with tangible, courageous actions. If Zimbabwe can repel a $367 million bribe, what insurmountable obstacle prevents the rest of our leaders from exhibiting similar fortitude? What deep-seated vulnerability compelled Burkina Faso to sign when Zimbabwe summoned the unshakable courage to walk away? I implore you to deeply ponder the immeasurable cost of freedom. At times, the price is exorbitant. At times, it necessitates the agonizing choice to embark upon a solitary path rather than to accept a gift intrinsically entwined with chains. Zimbabwe has resolved to independently finance its own HIV response. It will be an arduous, perhaps perilous journey. Shortages will undoubtedly arise. Struggles will proliferate. But at the culmination of this arduous path, the invaluable data of the Zimbabwean people will irrevocably belong to Zimbabwe. Their future will not be a commodity casually traded on the New York Stock Exchange. What is your considered appraisal of Zimbabwe's audacious courage? Do you perceive their actions as brave or as a reckless gamble with the precious lives of their citizenry? I eagerly await your profound insights in the comments section. This is the crucible in which we as a people forge our collective growth. By engaging with these excruciating truths, if you stand resolute with the sacred sovereignty of Africa, then let the words, "Africa can do it," reverberate through the digital ether right now. Let the world bear witness that we do not merely seek a handout, we demand respect. We yearn for a future where we are true partners, not subservient subjects. If the unfolding drama in Zimbabwe struck you as a stark awakening, then prepare yourselves, for what I am about to unveil regarding Zambia will not merely shake you, it will utterly shatter you to your core. In Zambia, the insidious mask did not merely slip, it was violently ripped away, revealing the grotesque countenance beneath. We are no longer merely contemplating the theft of biological data. We are confronted with something far more chilling, far more cold and calculating: the brazen bartering of human lives for the base currency of rocks and minerals. This, my family, is the very core of the America First strategy they meticulously conceal from the pristine narratives of Washington's evening news, and it is precisely why every single African soul must stand on the highest possible alert. In November 2025, Zambia found itself teetering on the precipice of inking its own monumental health accord with the United States. The figures whispered in the hushed corridors of power were staggering, a mind-boggling $1.5 billion. For a nation like Zambia, such an infusion of capital possessed the transformative potential to revitalize every clinic, from the bustling heart of Lusaka to the farthest reaches of the Copper Belt. Yet, a disquieting anomaly occurred. The deal was abruptly, inexplicably delayed. Rumors like whispers in a whirlwind began to coalesce, and then, the unthinkable, a leak. A draft of the agreement, clandestine and explosive, found its way into the hands of intrepid investigative journalists. And what was painstakingly transcribed within its pages was nothing short of a meticulously drafted blueprint for 21st century colonialism. The deal did not merely seek transient access to health data for a few fleeting years. No, the United States, with breathtaking audacity, was demanding that Zambia granted unfettered access to its citizens' health records for a full, unconscionable decade. But the predatory nature of the pact deepened even further. The agreement explicitly mandated that Zambia commit to sharing intelligence on any novel or emergent pathogens, essentially any new virus or bacteria unearthed within its sovereign borders, for an astonishing generational span of 25 years, a quarter of a century. Allow that chilling time frame to fully penetrate your consciousness. If a Zambian scientist were to make a groundbreaking discovery, a novel cure or a nascent biological threat, in the year 2045, they would still be legally bound by the ironclad shackles of a deal signed today to surrender that invaluable intelligence directly to Washington. This is not a health partnership. This is an insatiable data pipeline, meticulously designed to drain the intellectual wealth and biofutures of a nation for an entire generation. But here, my brothers and sisters, is the most explosive, the most morally repugnant detail, the revelation that sends an icy tendril of fear down my very spine. In December 2025, the U.S. Embassy in Zambia executed a maneuver of breathtaking arrogance and profound shame. They publicly, brazenly declared that this colossal $1.5 billion health financing agreement was directly and inextricably linked to collaboration in the mining sector and business sector reforms. The U.S. State Department, with an almost defiant casualness, subsequently confirmed it. The vital funding intended to combat HIV, the resources to prevent mothers from succumbing during childbirth, the critical means to protect children from the ravages of malaria. None of these would be released until Zambia acquiesced to terms directly pertaining to its coveted mineral wealth. Let the sheer, unadulterated cynicism of that demand seep into your soul. I want you to conjure the image of a 40-year-old father, a man like Moses, residing in a mining town such as Kitwe. Moses has dedicated his entire adult life to the copper mines, breathing in the perpetual dust, enduring the crushing labor, all so his children might inherit the gift of education. He is a man of prodigious work ethic, imbued with unshakable pride, but he is also afflicted by illness, necessitating regular medical intervention. The United States, in this abhorrent scenario, is effectively hovering over Moses, whispering its brutal ultimatum to the Zambian government. We will furnish Moses with the life-sustaining medicine he desperately requires, but only if you grant our American corporations the undisputed rights to the copper, the cobalt, and the nickel that Moses is laboriously excavating from your soil. This, my family, is the ultimate unforgivable insult to African dignity. Since when did the fundamental health and intrinsic value of a human being become a crude bargaining chip for mineral rights? If the United States harbors a desire to acquire our minerals, they should approach us as legitimate business entities, engaging in fair and equitable negotiations on the transparent open market. Instead, they slither through the clandestine back door of our Ministry of Health. They are leveraging the abject desperation of the sick, weaponizing human vulnerability, all to secure the supply chains essential for their electric vehicles and their sophisticated high-tech weaponry. Understand this: Zambia is not merely another African nation. It stands as Africa's second-largest copper producer. It sits atop gargantuan reserves of cobalt, manganese, and lithium, the very green gold that fuels the future. The United States, consumed by a palpable terror that China is rapidly outmaneuvering it in the relentless race for these critical minerals, has cynically transmuted health aid into an instrument of economic warfare. They are delivering an unambiguous message to Zambia: your minerals or your lives. The Zambian government, to its profound and eternal credit, courageously pushed back. The Ministry of Health stood its ground, declaring with resolute defiance that these exploitative provisions were fundamentally incompatible with the nation's supreme interest. Civil society groups across Zambia, with unified outrage, unmasked the deal for what it undeniably was: shameless exploitation. They grasped the terrifying truth: once you sign away your precious data and your invaluable minerals under the deceitful guise of health aid, you have, in essence, irrevocably signed away your very sovereignty. And observe the breathtaking audacity of the oversight they demanded. The leaked document explicitly mandated that Zambia participate in monthly briefings with the U.S. Embassy, compelled to report on its trade and investment endeavors. Imagine for a moment a sovereign African nation being forced to submit a meticulous account of its internal economic activities to a foreign embassy every 30 days, akin to a recalcitrant student reporting to a stern principal. This is not the language of cooperation. It is the chilling lexicon of supervision. It heralds the insidious return of the colonial administrator, but this time he is not adorned with a pith helmet. He is carrying a sleek briefcase replete with health grants. The drama, far from subsiding, escalated. In February, Zambia's former health minister appeared on national television, attempting with transparent futility to deny any link between the health funding and the mining deals. 3 days later, President Hichilema summarily dismissed him. No official reason was offered, but the message, loud and devastatingly clear, resonated across the continent. The immense, suffocating pressure exerted by Washington is tearing through the fragile fabric of African governments. For our diaspora community, this should unfurl as a massive, blazing red flag. When the term strategic partnership wafts through the air, you must demand with uncompromising clarity, strategic for whom? When the U.S. declares its intention to strengthen bilateral relationships, they are, more often than not, articulating their intent to strengthen their stranglehold on our invaluable resources. They perceive Africa not as a continent teeming with vibrant people, endowed with dreams and inalienable rights, but as a vast warehouse of raw materials and a ready-made laboratory for biological data. Is this the partnership we truly desire? A partnership where the fundamental health of our people is callously leveraged as a bargaining chip. In Zambia, we are witnessing the stark, unadorned blueprint of the America First agenda, revealed in its most honest and brutal form. It is a strategy unequivocally about securing American technology, fortifying American electric car industries, and bolstering American prosperity, all achieved at the profound and catastrophic expense of African autonomy. I pose this question to you, the vigilant viewers who harbor a profound concern for the future of our continent. How should a conscientious leader respond when a superpower holds the very health of their populace hostage? Should they kowtow, bowing to the short-term imperative of saving lives, or should they stand tall, unwavering, to safeguard the enduring sovereignty of the nation in the long term? Zambia, in its valiant struggle, is striving to carve out a third path, a precarious route of negotiation without capitulation, but the uncompromising America First doctrine leaves scant room for compromise. It is their way or the barren highway of isolation. Please, I implore you, share your deepest thoughts. If you believe with every fiber of your being that it is time for Africa to unequivocally cease trading its invaluable minerals for the deceptive illusion of aid, then let the words resource sovereignty inundate the comments. We must transmit an undeniable message to the global powers that our copper, our cobalt, and the precious lives of our people are not and will never be for sale. We must rally with unshakable resolve behind the leaders and the grassroots activists who possess the unwavering courage to utter a resounding no to these inherently lopsided predatory deals. Now, I need you to remain tethered to this narrative as we plunge even deeper into the abyss. We have borne witness to the initial shockwaves reverberating through Burkina Faso, the incandescent courage emanating from Zimbabwe, and the raw, unadulterated exploitation laid bare in Zambia. But to truly comprehend the intricately woven trap that has been meticulously laid for our continent, we must scrutinize the master plan itself. We must dissect with surgical precision the America First Global Health Strategy, a 36-page document coldly promulgated in September 2025, which serves as the chilling blueprint for this new, insidious era of influence. This document transcends the mundane realm of a mere governmental report. It is a declaration of intent, a manifesto of dominion. And from its very inaugural page, it brazenly declares its intended beneficiary. The mission statement conspicuously makes no mention of saving African lives as its paramount objective. Instead, it chillingly articulates its primary mission as making America safer, stronger, and more prosperous. It is emblazoned there, in stark black and white, undeniable. Africa is not envisioned as a partner. Africa is meticulously designated as a tool. The laboratories, the clinics, the sophisticated surveillance systems they so eagerly propose to construct within our sovereign nations are not primarily conceived for our benefit. They are the advanced warning sensors strategically positioned for the exclusive advantage of the United States. Their primary aim is to meticulously contain outbreaks on our soil, ensuring they never breach their own borders. They are, in essence, transforming our sacred land into a buffer zone, a protective cordon to safeguard their own distant shores. And why, you might ask, this abrupt, calculated pivot towards these clandestine, one-on-one bilateral deals? Because the United States has, with audacious contempt, formally abandoned the global community. On January 22, 2026, the U.S. officially withdrew from the World Health Organization. They contemptuously walked away from the very table where every nation, regardless of its might, possessed a voice. Why this deliberate isolation? Because within the framework of the WHO, there exist fundamental rules, principles of equitable sharing. If a country, in good faith, shares a virus sample, the global community is ethically bound to ensure that country receives reciprocal access to any resultant vaccines or treatments. But by exiting the WHO, the U.S. has, with a flick of its imperial wrist, contemptuously shredded that rule book. Their current modus operandi is to engage with African countries individually, behind closed doors, where they can exploit their colossal wealth to bully smaller nations into signing inherently lopsided predatory contracts. This meticulously crafted strategy serves as a direct, aggressive countermeasure to the burgeoning influence of China and Russia across Africa. The U.S. Secretary of State, with unvarnished candor, articulated it himself. Foreign assistance is not charity. It is a strategic mechanism to further the national interest of the United States. They are openly, brazenly admitting that their motives are entirely devoid of philanthropic altruism. It is about triumphing in a merciless geopolitical chess match. They perceive China's burgeoning infrastructure development and Russia's provision of security, and in response, the U.S. has strategically opted to construct the invisible infrastructure. What do I mean precisely by this ominous term, invisible infrastructure? I refer to the intricate data systems, the labyrinthine regulatory frameworks, and the omnipresent digital health records that will meticulously track every African from the moment of birth to the solemnity of death. The strategy explicitly mandates the integrating of American personnel and American systems directly into African health ministries. They demand their people embedded within our government buildings, overseeing our data streams, and unilaterally directing our health policies. Once these systems are inextricably embedded, they become almost impossible to dislodge. This is a subtle yet devastating form of digital colonization, far more pervasive and effective than any overt military occupation. Consider for a moment the insidious co-investment clause. The U.S. is, with chilling efficiency, slashing its overall health budget for Africa by a staggering nearly 50%. Yet, simultaneously, they are demanding that African governments escalate their own domestic spending to conform to American benchmarks. They are coercing our nations to divert desperately needed funds away from critical sectors like education, infrastructure development, and local businesses, forcing them instead to bankroll a health system that is meticulously designed and overseen by Washington. Should a country fail to meet these unilaterally imposed benchmarks, the U.S. reserves the unilateral right to abruptly withdraw funding from life-saving programs at a moment's notice. It is, in essence, a leash that progressively shortens with each passing year, tightening its grip around the neck of our autonomy. For our cherished diaspora family, this constitutes the gravest, most imminent danger. Many of us possess invaluable expertise in the fields of technology, medicine, and governance within the Western sphere. We comprehend the profound power inherent in data. We understand with terrifying clarity that in 2026, the nation that exerts control over the biological data of 1 billion people will invariably dictate the future trajectory of medicine. They are utilizing the paltry $147 million bestowed upon Burkina Faso as a mere down payment, an initial installment on the genetic secrets of the entire Sahel region. The strategy also, with carefully chosen language, mentions promoting American health innovation. This is thinly veiled code, a euphemism for ensuring that African countries are compelled to exclusively procure American pharmaceuticals and American technology. They are cynically leveraging aid to fabricate a captive market for their colossal corporations. While their rhetoric espouses the virtues of self-reliance, their actions are meticulously constructing an edifice of permanent dependency on American products and American software. It is a remarkably clever, a diabolically cunning game, is it not? They jettison the heavy-handed, overtly militaristic tools, the surveillance aircraft, the drones that generated such profound antipathy, and replace them with the smiling faces of doctors and the seemingly benign presence of data analysts. They transition from the war on terror to the ostensibly more benevolent war on outbreaks. Yet the fundamental objective remains chillingly identical: absolute control. Their unwavering resolve is to ensure that as Africa inevitably rises, it does so strictly within a predefined framework that perpetually places America first. I urge you to reflect upon the 19 countries that have already succumbed to the allure of these deals: Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, and now, shockingly, Burkina Faso. Are their leaders truly grasping the larger, insidious picture, or are they myopically focused solely on the immediate pressing crisis? When one is in the throes of drowning, one will instinctively clutch at any available branch, even if that branch is bristling with thorns. But we, the awakened, must demand an answer to this fundamental question. At what critical juncture does the ostensible help become infinitely more costly, more destructive than the very problem it purports to solve? Tell me, my family, do you genuinely believe that Africa can ever attain true, unassailable sovereignty while its most sensitive biological data is systematically siphoned off to Washington? Is a genuine partnership even conceivable with a superpower that explicitly, brazenly declares its sole, overarching goal as its own prosperity at the deliberate exclusion of all others? Let the words data sovereignty thunder through the comments if your conviction holds that Africa's most intimate secrets must unequivocally remain within Africa's sacred embrace. Let us collectively demonstrate to the world that we comprehend the intricate, nefarious game they are orchestrating. We are not mere passive consumers of aid. We are the rightful sovereign owners of our own luminous future. To truly grasp the profound, epoch-defining weight of the pen clutched in Captain Ibrahim Traoré's hand, we must momentarily detach ourselves from the polished, sterile halls of the presidential palace and descend into the vibrant, often harsh reality of Ouagadougou's sprawling outskirts. I wish to introduce you to a man named Idrissa. Idrissa, at 58 years of age, has dedicated 3 decades of his life to tilling the stubborn land, raising a family, and stoically witnessing his beloved country lurch through one devastating crisis after another. Today, Idrissa is bone-weary, not merely from the unceasing labor that has calloused his hands and bowed his back, but because he lives with a chronic health condition that demands an unwavering, consistent supply of medication. For Idrissa, the America First strategy is not a voluminous 36-page government document. It is the brutal, tangible difference between being able to chase his grandchildren's laughter or being confined to a solitary bed in an overcrowded, under-resourced clinic. When the news of the $147 million deal shattered the fragile peace, Idrissa's immediate thoughts did not gravitate towards abstract concepts like biological data sovereignty. His mind instead envisioned the possibility of clinics remaining open, of the life-saving drugs finally, miraculously, reappearing on the shelves, replenishing the perpetually empty stockrooms. This, my family, is the very crucible of Traoré's agonizing dilemma. As a leader, he is locked in a brutal existential war against internal insurgents. He is simultaneously engaged in a relentless struggle for economic liberation for the very soul of his nation. Yet, with every waking breath, he bears the crushing responsibility for the immediate, tangible lives of people like Idrissa. He is inexorably caught between the grand, long-term vision of absolute independence and the short-term, visceral urgency of keeping his people alive today, tomorrow. It is a choice, agonizing and morally repugnant, that no leader should ever be forced to confront. Yet it is the brutal, unvarnished reality of the African continent in this pivotal year of 2026. Some Western analysts, with their detached, clinical gaze, term Traoré's precarious tightrope walk strategic compartmentalization. It sounds sophisticated, does it not? Intellectually appealing. It posits a scenario where one procures security expertise from Russia, infrastructural development from China, and desperately needed medicine from America. The theory suggests one can shrewdly play the global giants against one another, extracting precisely what is required from each without ever surrendering one's entire, irreplaceable soul to any single power. It is, by any measure, a perilous high-wire act. Traoré, in this dangerous dance, is attempting to construct a multi-vector foreign policy, a delicate balance where Burkina Faso, ultimately, retains undisputed mastery over its own destiny. But here lies the terrifying fundamental danger. The United States, in its relentless pursuit of global hegemony, does not compartmentalize. When Washington affixes its signature to a health deal, they are not merely dispatching benevolent doctors. They are systematically embedding their intricate systems into the very nervous system, the central operating core of the nation. The agreement, with chilling precision, specifically invokes the word integration. I implore you to etch that word deeply into your memory. By the culmination of this 5-year period, American-funded laboratories and American-trained personnel will be inextricably woven, integrated into the very fabric of the Burkina Faso Ministry of Health. This implies, with terrifying clarity, that the processes of data collection, the structures of reporting, and the fundamental mechanisms of decision-making will all be operating on American software, governed by American logic, adhering to American protocols. Once you permit a foreign power to lay the foundational architecture of your very home, you cannot, with a casual request, simply ask them to depart when the aesthetic of the paint color no longer appeals to your sensibilities. You are irrevocably locked in. What chilling future awaits us if this trajectory of bilateral, isolated deals persists? We are staring down the barrel of a profoundly fragmented Africa. While the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, was envisioned as an unyielding, unified front, this egregious deal reveals that even the most resolute among us can be systematically picked off one by one. The U.S. strategy is chillingly transparent. Meticulously isolate the target nations, patiently await for the crisis to escalate to an unbearable crescendo, and then, with practiced ease, stride in, brandishing a document that offers a seductive, immediate balm for the pressing problem, while simultaneously forging an ironclad, permanent dependency. But there is another way, a path illuminated by the fierce, unyielding spirit of our ancestors. We are witnessing the emergence of a new generation of Africans, both rooted on the continent and dispersed throughout the diaspora, who are articulating an impassioned, uncompromising call for a new Africa. This is not a mere catchy slogan, a fleeting rhetorical flourish. It is a profound, non-negotiable demand for African-led pharmaceutical manufacturing. It is a fervent demand for African-owned data centers and robust African-led health research initiatives. We possess the boundless intellectual prowess, the brilliant minds. We have doctors in the diaspora who are revered, world-renowned authorities in their fields. Why then are we perpetually waiting in supplicant posture for a $147 million check from a country that, with unapologetic candor, explicitly declares its own interests as paramount? If the African Union and the Alliance of Sahel States can harness their collective will, coordinate their health responses with the same strategic cohesion they exhibit in their security endeavors, the entire leverage dynamic shifts seismically. If 54 sovereign nations stand united, declaring with an unshakable voice, "We will share our data, but only if we retain undisputed ownership of the resulting vaccines, the patents, the intellectual property," then the insidious America First strategy crumbles, reduced to dust. But as long as we persist in negotiating in isolation as individual, vulnerable entities, we are destined perpetually to lose. The true hidden cost of that $147 million bestowed upon Burkina Faso might very well be the health records, the genetic codes, and the very biological future of the next 3 generations of Africans. I want to address you directly, the younger generation, whose eyes are now fixed on this screen. You are the inheritors of these decisions, the ones who will live with their profound, far-reaching consequences. Do not allow yourselves to be blinded by the superficial allure of the money. Scrutinize the fine print with an unforgiving gaze. Demand, with unyielding insistence, to know why your government is so readily surrendering invaluable virus samples to a foreign power that, with contemptuous disregard, summarily abandoned the World Health Organization. Demand absolute transparency. For today, the weapon of choice is not a crude gun. It is the seemingly innocuous, yet infinitely more powerful, digital health record. For the esteemed elders in our community, for figures like Idrissa, we owe them more than mere words. We owe it to them to forge a path that provides care without demanding the surrender of dignity. We must not accept a world where an African life is callously relegated to a bargaining chip for a mining concession or a mere sequence of biological data. We must cultivate, nurture, and fiercely defend the unwavering belief that Africa unequivocally can do it. We must hold with unshakable conviction the truth that our sovereignty is an invaluable treasure, far surpassing the fleeting allure of any budget surplus. What is your deeply considered prediction for Burkina Faso? Do you believe Captain Traoré possesses the tactical genius to outmaneuver the American strategists? Or has he, in a moment of agonizing desperation, inadvertently ushered the fox into the very heart of the henhouse? I implore you to share your most profound, unfiltered thoughts in the comments. This is an incredibly complex, morally fraught situation, devoid of easy answers, but silence, my family, is not an option. Inscribe the words, "Africa is not for sale," if you believe with every fiber of your being that our leaders must now more than ever forge a nobler, more resolute path. Let us ensure our collective voices, echoing across the vast oceans, resonate with an undeniable force. We are watching, we are learning, and we will not be silenced, not now, not ever. As we reach the culmination of this profound journey today, I urge each of you to inhale deeply, to allow the weight of everything we have meticulously uncovered to settle within your spirit. We have seen with chilling clarity how the insidious America First agenda transcends the realm of a mere political slogan. It is a meticulously crafted strategic trap, designed with surgical precision to ensnare the very essence, the unwritten future of our magnificent continent. From the bewildering $147 million pact in Burkina Faso, to the brazen mineral demands in Zambia, and the chilling biological data harvest in Zimbabwe, the message, stark and unambiguous, resonates. Africa is being mercilessly compelled to choose between its immediate visceral survival and its eternal, sacred sovereignty. I wish to leave you with this final, indelible thought. A nation, my family, is not truly, unequivocally free until it possesses the inherent capacity to heal its own people, with its own medicine, cultivated by its own hands, and to safeguard its own invaluable data, with its own systems, built by its own ingenuity. Captain Ibrahim Traoré finds himself engulfed in a brutal trial by fire, and while we grasp with profound empathy the immense, suffocating pressure under which he toils, we must, with unyielding conviction, hold the line. We must serve as an unwavering reminder to our leaders that the sacred blood of our revered ancestors did not flow, was not shed, so that we, their progeny, could be reduced to mere digital subjects in a nascent age of data colonialism. This, my people, is our crucible moment. This is our time to stand tall, unbowed, and unbroken. For every elder like Idrissa, whose weary hands bear the scars of generations, for every grandmother like Gogo Tandi, whose very existence hinges on foreign pills, and for every innocent child born today in the sun-drenched yet struggling Sahel, we must demand, with an unshakable collective voice, an Africa-first reality. We are a people imbued with immense untapped wealth, blessed with profound ancient wisdom, and possessing an unbreakable spirit forged in the fires of adversity. The arduous road to total unassailable independence is undeniably long, precipitous, and fraught with peril. But let there be no doubt, we are walking it together, shoulder to mighty shoulder. Before we conclude, I extend to you a solemn invitation to join us in a profound ritual of solidarity, a digital sacrament of commitment. If you believe with every fiber of your being that Africa's sacred dignity is an inviolable treasure, utterly not for sale, and if your heart resonates with the profound rhythmic beat of total liberation for our cherished people, then I implore you to perform a simple yet powerful act of commitment. First, if you have not already, subscribe to this channel and let the resonant chime of that bell reverberate. We are more than a mere channel. We are an surging, unstoppable movement for unvarnished truth. Second, I want you to navigate to the comment section right this very moment, and with absolute conviction, type in bold capital letters, "Amen, I stand with Africa." Let those powerful words inundate the comments, an undeniable digital tsunami. Let them serve as a fervent prayer for our leaders, a collective invocation and a resounding declaration to the entire world that we are unequivocally awake, we are profoundly united, and we will never, under any circumstance, surrender our collective soul for the fleeting illusion of a handout. Finally, share this video. Share it with one person, just one, who desperately needs to hear this unvarnished truth. Spread the word like a wildfire sweeping across the vast, ancient savannah. I am your host, and it is an unparalleled honor to stand in unwavering solidarity with each and every one of you. Stay strong, remain eternally vigilant, and always, always remember, Africa's future unequivocally belongs to Africans. I will see you in the next one. It's a bye-bye for now.